The chill that ran through me wasn't from the air conditioning. It was the kind of cold that sinks deep into your bones, telling you, without a single word, that your life, as you know it, is about to shatter. I'd opened that door 1,000 times, walked into that familiar living room. But on that day, the sight that greeted me froze every drop of blood in my veins. My stepson, Caleb, stood there, not alone, not as the boy I knew. And what I saw, his size, the sheer undeniable reality of it, left me utterly speechless. This wasn't just a moment. It was the precipice of my undoing. And it all began with a loneliness so profound, it felt like a physical ache. My name is Eleanor, and for 42 years, I'd navigated life with a quiet grace, or so I believed. My home in Scottsdale, Arizona, was a picture of suburban comfort. A sprawling house, manicured lawns, and the illusion of a blissful marriage. Richard, my husband, was a good man, steady and reliable. A successful businessman whose frequent travels often left me to fill the cavernous silence of our home. We'd been married for 12 years, a union that had settled into a comfortable, almost predictable rhythm. We rarely argued, we had our routines, and from the outside, we were the epitome of a stable, mature couple. But beneath that polished surface, cracks were slowly, silently appearing. The spark, if it had ever truly burned brightly, had long since dwindled to a flicker. Our conversations had grown superficial, our evenings spent in separate corners of the house, engrossed in our own worlds. The physical intimacy that once tied us together had become sporadic, then almost non-existent. I found myself yearning for connection, for a touch, a word, a glance that said, "I see you, Eleanor." But those moments never came. Richard was present, yes, but he was absent in the ways that truly mattered to my soul. A deep, insidious loneliness began to take root within me, a gnawing emptiness that no amount of sunshine or designer furniture could fill. It was a hunger for something more, something undefined, something dangerously close to forbidden. The first tremor in my carefully constructed world arrived subtly, disguised as a casual encounter. Caleb, Richard's son from his first marriage, had moved in with us a few months prior. He was 20 years old, fresh out of college, navigating the awkward transition from boy to man. He was charming, attentive in a way Richard no longer was, and possessed a quiet intensity that, at first, I merely found intriguing. We'd always had a pleasant, if somewhat distant, stepmother-stepson relationship. He called me Eleanor, not Mom, and I respected that boundary. But as the weeks turned into months, and Richard's business trips grew longer, the dynamic in the house began to shift. Caleb and I found ourselves spending more time together. He'd often join me for dinner, something Richard rarely did. We'd talk for hours about his dreams, his college experiences, his anxieties about the future. I found myself opening up to him, confessing small frustrations about my day, things I wouldn't dare share with Richard, who might dismiss them as trivial. Caleb listened, truly listened, his gaze unwavering, making me feel seen, perhaps for the first time in years. There were moments, fleeting at first, when our eyes would linger a little too long. A shared laugh would feel a little too intimate. He would offer to help me with chores, his strong hands brushing mine as he took a plate, sending a jolt through me that I quickly dismissed as an accident. But the accidents became more frequent, the glances more profound. I started to notice the way his muscles flexed beneath his t-shirt, the subtle scent of his cologne. I tried to push these thoughts away, to label them as inappropriate, a symptom of my loneliness. But the seeds of temptation had been sown, subtle yet undeniable, in the quiet corners of our home. It was a dangerous game of unspoken desires, and I was unknowingly, foolishly, playing along. The night it happened is etched into my memory with painful clarity, a scar on my soul. Richard was away, as usual, on a crucial business trip. The house was too quiet, the silence pressing in on me like a physical weight. I had poured myself a glass of wine, trying to read, but my mind kept drifting. Then I heard a knock on my bedroom door. It was Caleb. He looked different. His eyes held a vulnerability, a raw intensity I hadn't seen before. He apologized for bothering me, said he couldn't sleep, and just wanted to talk. We sat on the edge of my bed, talking in hushed tones. The wine had loosened my inhibitions, and the dam of my loneliness burst. I spoke of my emptiness, my yearning for connection. And he listened, his hand gently, almost imperceptibly, reaching out and covering mine. The touch sent a jolt through me, electrifying every nerve ending. It was a touch of pure, unadulterated yearning, not just from him, but from me too. One touch led to another. A hesitant glance turned into a searing stare. The air in the room grew thick with unspoken desires. We were two lost souls, seeking solace in the wrong place, drawn together by a magnetic force we both knew was dangerous, but felt powerless to resist. His lips found mine, tentative at first, then desperate, consuming. It was a kiss that spoke of years of unspoken needs, of forbidden desires finally unleashed. In that moment, the world outside, Richard, our roles, all vanished. There was only the primal, undeniable pull between us. The night unfolded in a haze of reckless passion. The intimacy was raw, unplanned, fueled by a dangerous cocktail of loneliness, youth, and forbidden attraction. When it was over, a wave of shock, then shame, washed over me. What had I done? My stepson. My husband's son. The weight of my actions pressed down on me, suffocating me. But beneath the crushing guilt, a dangerous flicker of something else remained. A thrilling, terrifying sense of having finally felt something, anything, after so long. It was a fleeting, twisted kind of ecstasy, bought at an unimaginable price. I knew, with a sickening certainty, that I had crossed a line, one that could never be uncrossed. The days that followed were a torturous dance between profound guilt and a terrifying, perverse comfort. Every time Caleb and I crossed paths, a silent understanding passed between us, a shared secret that bound us in a web of complicity. My conscience screamed at me, reminding me of Richard, of the years we'd spent together, of the life I was systematically dismantling with each passing moment of forbidden intimacy. I would catch glimpses of my reflection in the mirror, searching for the woman I used to be, but all I saw was a stranger, haunted by her choices. Yet, despite the overwhelming shame, there was a strange solace in Caleb's presence. He brought a vibrancy, an intensity that had been missing from my life for so long. He wasn't just a boy anymore. He was a man, with desires, and a passion that mirrored my own. He looked at me with an adoration that was both unsettling and incredibly addictive. He made me feel young again, desired, alive. These were feelings I hadn't realized I craved so desperately until they were offered, albeit in the most inappropriate way imaginable. Our secret encounters became more frequent, stolen moments in the quiet hours after Richard called from his business trips or when he was out for an evening. Each touch, each whispered word, deepened the chasm between the woman I was supposed to be and the woman I had become. I tried to rationalize it. Richard was emotionally distant. I was lonely. Caleb was mature beyond his years. We were both consenting adults. But these were just flimsy excuses I whispered to myself in the dark, trying to quiet the roaring storm inside. The internal struggle was relentless. One moment I would be planning to end it, to confess everything, to try and salvage what remained of my life. The next, Caleb's gaze, his casual brush against my arm, would send shivers down my spine, pulling me back into the dangerous eddy of our affair. I was caught, ensnared by a guilt that weighed 1,000 pounds, and a forbidden attraction that felt like the only source of warmth in my cold, empty world. I knew this couldn't last. I knew discovery was inevitable. But I was powerless to stop the train that was speeding towards an unavoidable, catastrophic collision. The thought of losing this new, intense connection, however wrong, was almost as terrifying as the thought of being found out. My life had become a precarious balancing act, and I was walking a tightrope over an abyss. The inevitable crash came, as most do, from an unexpected direction. It wasn't my confession, nor Richard's sudden return. It was Chloe, Caleb's ex-girlfriend. She'd always been possessive, jealous, and perhaps she'd sensed the shift in Caleb, the way his attention had strayed. Or perhaps Caleb, in a moment of youthful recklessness, had let slip too much. Whatever the reason, Chloe found out, and in a fit of rage or revenge, she called Richard. The phone call arrived like a death knell. I remember the cold dread that washed over me when Richard called, his voice eerily calm, asking me to explain something Chloe had just told him. My heart pounded, a frantic drum against my ribs. There was no denying it, no hiding the truth now. The carefully constructed facade of my life shattered into a million pieces. The confrontation with Richard was brutal, raw, and utterly devastating. His face, contorted in a mixture of disbelief, betrayal, and heartbreak, will forever haunt my nightmares. The accusations, the tears, the agonizing silence that followed, it all painted a picture of absolute ruin. He didn't yell. He just looked at me as if he no longer knew who I was, as if I were a stranger, a monster. The trust, the foundation of our 12 years together, had evaporated in an instant. There was no forgiving this, no coming back from this kind of wound. Within days, I was out of the house, my belongings packed into boxes, my marriage a smoldering ruin. I had lost everything, my home, my husband, my reputation, and perhaps a piece of myself that could never be reclaimed. Caleb was devastated too, but he had his youth, his father, a path forward. I, on the other hand, was left adrift, alone, and facing the bleak landscape of a future I had so recklessly destroyed. The shame was a constant companion, a heavy cloak I could never shed. The emptiness I had once felt in my marriage now paled in comparison to the utter desolation that consumed me. My choices had not brought me happiness or fulfillment, only an irreversible cascade of loss. Today, I live in a smaller place, far from Scottsdale, far from the life I once knew. The sun still shines, but its warmth rarely reaches me. The silence that once plagued my marriage is now a deafening roar in my solitary existence. I carry the scars of my choices visible only to me, but they ache with every breath I take. The regret is a constant companion, a reminder of the destructive path I chose, driven by a loneliness that morphed into something far more dangerous. My life is a testament to the fact that seeking solace in forbidden places only leads to deeper, more profound emptiness. I lost my marriage, my home, and the respect I once held for myself. The price of fleeting passion was everything. Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads, yearning for something that felt just out of reach, but knew the cost would be too high? How do we navigate the deep, often unspoken loneliness that can lead us down dangerous paths? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. And if you found solace or understanding in Eleanor's story, please consider subscribing to Silent Truths for more raw, unvarnished stories of the human experience. Your support helps us share these important narratives.